again and welcome. My name is Dr. Ashibi Jacob Eneji, and of course you probably know I am your course facilitator for CSS848 Principles of Security Practice and Management. In this instructional video we are going to be looking at correctional facility management. Alright, how to manage correctional facility. Alright, it's going to be a brief one. I urge you to pay attention as we move on with this presentation. Well, first let's look at the intended learning outcomes. Intended learning outcomes are things that you should be able to do by the end of the lesson. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the core functions of correctional facilities. Why do correctional facilities exist? What are they supposed to do? Again, you should be able to explain the foundation of prison management. What basis are prisons being managed? Then analyze ways of showing leadership in correctional facilities. And you should be able to state the principles of security practice in correctional facilities or correctional institutions. Again, you should be able to explain the components of correctional security. And finally, you should be able to state possible recommendations for effective correction management. Alright, so it looks bulky, but trust me, it's gonna be easy. So we are going to take them one after the other as we move on. Alright, so the first one is to look at the functions of correctional facilities. Why do they exist? First is to protect society. Alright, to protect society by confining offenders in facilities that are safe, humane, and secure. Alright, so people who have offended others have to be confined, so they don't take on revenge when they are being reported to others. So offenders need to be confined so they don't become risk factors to other members of the society. That is one of the primary functions of correctional facilities. Yeah. Again, to ensure that offenders are actively participating in programs that will help them for rebate into law-abiding citizens when they return to their communities at the expiration of their prison terms in the case of convicts. All right, so those offenders who have been convicted and have served during service of their prison term, the function of the correctional facility is to ensure that they participate in those programs that will help rehabilitation in order for them to become law-abiding citizens. All right, so these are the two dual functions of the correctional facilities. Ultimately, the correctional facilities are there to prepare inmates for their release. All right, to prepare inmates for their release, to ensure that they are better off than when they went into confinement. All right. Okay. So the danger of a poorly managed detention facility of any type is that it could become a breeding ground. Right, a breeding ground for radicalization, where criminals, less hardened criminals, learn behaviors within the prison system to become hardened from those hardened criminals who are also incarcerated. Okay, so once the correctional facilities are not properly managed, it gives room for other hardened criminals to train the younger ones to become even more hardened. All right, so let's proceed. Let's look into the foundation of prison management. The foundation of prison management. What is the basis of prison management? Now, prison management is rooted and operated within an ethical framework. All right, that's the basic term, the ethical framework. So they operate within an ethical framework. So they are guided by ethics. Prison officials are guided by professional ethics. Because where, if in the absence of ethics, where the prison officials are there to take charge over the convicts, they might go out of place to abuse, all right? They might go out of place and begin to have a situation of abuse of power, where the convicts might be maltreated unprofessionally. Okay. Another one is that the prison officials or the rehabilitation facility officials need to have that professional identity by the way they carry themselves, by the way they behave, which is also rooted in the understanding and ethical application of a body of specialized developing knowledge and work skills. So this is all about professionalism, right? There must be that professional identity. The foundation of prison management is based on ethical framework. It's based on that professional identity, all right? According to MC Gokin in 2017, there must be quality leadership, integrity, and motivational skills. So if I am to summarily pick those key points in the foundation of prison management, I'll be looking at ethical framework, I'll be looking at professional identity, I'll be looking at leadership, integrity, and motivational skills. All of these are very valid foundations for prison management. Alright, let's move on straight to the principles or ways to demonstrate leadership in a correctional facility. There are two ways. One is staff-inmate relationship. There must be that cordial relationship between the prison staff or correctional facility staff and the inmates. All right, it is a key feature to the successful or to the success or failure of any prison system. Where there is no positive relationship between the staff and inmates, the prison system is bound to fail. All right, but where there is a positive relationship, then it is bound to be successful. Again, staff attitude. Staff must put up that positive attitude to work. All right, positive attitude to work, because they are also role models to the inmates. So these are the two ways to demonstrate good leadership. The prison staff must have a very good relationship, positive relationship with the inmates. Then their attitude to work must also be of a positive perspective. All right, that gives them that position as leaders, while the inmates, as demonstrated here, will keep following them. All right. Okay. Let's see the next subject here. Of course, principles of security practice in correctional facility. Let's see those principles. First one here is that security is the foundation on which all efforts to develop positive regime is based. All right, the key essence of a correctional facility is all about security. It's all about security, and security in this perspective in correctional facility as a principle must ensure security measures are in place and safety measures are also in place. Now, what's the difference between security measures and safety measures? By security measures, it entails preventing inmates from escaping or causing harm to others, right? Preventing those inmates from escaping or causing harm to others. That is quite self-explanatory. That means those measures by way of physical security must be in place to ensure that the inmates do not escape or that they do not cause havoc or become dangerous to others. By security measures, this type of measure must be supported with good external control and physical barriers. Things like high walls, fences, CCTV cameras, and so on and so forth, just to ensure that the inmates do not escape, all right, and that they are being watched in order that they don't become risk factors to others. Then safety measures or safety measures. Safety measures basically entails to maintain good order and control and to prevent the inmates from becoming disruptive, and of course to also protect vulnerable inmates. This also is supported by fair, just, and transparent disciplinary measure. So by safety measure, the key word here is that inmates should not become disruptive. All right, and of course, vulnerable inmates has to be protected. Prison officials' disposition to disciplinary measures must be fair, just, and transparent. So the inmates do not begin to see the prison officials as being biased, okay, or as being partial in their judgments. So by security measures, in summary, it means those physical preventive measures that have been put in place to avoid inmates escape, while safety measures is to ensure that the inmates do not become unruly, that they don't get out of hand and become disruptive, and also to protect those inmates that may be vulnerable. Alright, well, before we move on, it is important as usual that we take our class activity 1, and so you may want to write all of this down. It is important that you practice these questions based on what we have just discussed. So I pause the video, or you can pause the video for just a few minutes, take down these questions, then you can move on. Okay, now let's take on the next aspect of this lesson, which is the components of correctional facilities. Correctional security. Now we're looking at correctional security. Now, what are those components? What are the elements of correctional security? The first one here is physical security. Physical security, I mentioned this before. It has to do with securing the buildings with fences around areas with the facility and the wall around the entire facility. The use of multiple layers security, all right. So the physical security essentially has to do with physical protection around the correctional facility, and it is characterized by metal detectors, X-ray screening system, identification badges, palm readers, surveillance cameras, radios, and other communication systems, alarm buttons, lock perimeters, doors, and gates. All of these are characteristics of physical security. All right, so these are core elements in terms of physical security. All right, so let's look at the procedure. Right, the next one is the procedural security. Now we're looking at the components of correctional security. We have talked about the physical security aspect of it. We're now looking at the procedural security. Here we are looking at those procedures that have to be followed, right, to prevent escape and to maintain good order. Those procedures that have to be followed to prevent escape and to maintain good order. Example: ethical searching. All right, inmates have to be searched as they come in and as they go out. The important procedures are accounting for inmates. All right, there must be head count. For instance, if one prison official is handing over inmates to another, the inmates have to be counted. The handing over officer has to count, and the receiving officer has to also count to confirm that what is being handed over to him or her is exactly the number of inmates that is expected. And so there has to be double counting. Control of keys. Keys has to be kept in a central location where it can be controlled, so the inmates do not get hold of those keys and become violent. Searches, we have already explained that. As inmates come in from the very first day, they should be searched, and as they leave, they should also be searched. Alright, so let's take the last one, which is the dynamic security. Dynamic security has to do more with positive relationship with the inmates, developing that cordial relationship with the inmates, the essence of which is to ensure that you know what is going on around the prison environment. And how do you know about that? That is by information getting. You extract information from the inmates, other inmates who may be willing to discuss what is going on in the prison because of your relationship with them as a prison official. So dynamic security is knowing what is going on in a facility, in adding to providing a safe and secure background against which the whole range of activities making up the prison life inmate takes place. All right, prison life of inmates takes place. In essence, it is about developing that relationship with the inmates to be sure that you always get very valid information about what's happening or what's going on in the prison, so that if inmates are planning to become violent, that violence could be prohibited, could be handled even before it happened. They could be prevented, all right, before they happen. It includes developing positive relationship with inmates. I mentioned that. Diverting inmates' energy into constructive work. Yes, instead of inmates staying idle and thinking of how they should escape, it involves diverting that energy into constructive work and activity. Then provide a decent and balanced regime with individualized programs. Of course, those programs that inmates should all benefit from should be introduced as a form of dynamic security. Alright, since we talked about balance, we have looked at the three components of prison correctional security. Now, the final note here on this element is that all the elements, there should be a balance. All right, you can look at the image here. All the elements should be used in a prison setting. Okay, a proper balance should be maintained between the physical, procedural, and dynamic security in the case of all inmates, including high-risk inmates. No one security measure is better than the other. All right, they should be applied based on circumstances. All right, having said that, let's look at the recommendations for effective correctional management. Recommendations for effective correctional management. First is that pre-trial detainees should benefit from correctional programs. Those who are yet to be convicted should also partake in correctional programs, because sometimes awaiting trial inmates tends to overstay detention. Okay, so they even stay longer than the prison term sometimes that may now be passed upon them. Okay, so during their stay in detention, they should also benefit from correctional programs. So by the time they are convicted, they would have already been rehabilitated and suitable to join the society again. Maintenance of safety and human environment. Of course, the prison environment should be safe and should be conducive for the prisoners. Then proper implementation of written policies and procedures. All prison policies should be properly implemented, and of course the procedures should be well spelled out. Then correctional staff and inmates positive relationships should be encouraged. We talked about that in the dynamic security perspective. Okay, then developing an effective database to record information and account for all inmates in the facility from the time the inmate first entered the facility until expiration of their sentence in the community. This is key database in order to have accurate and adequate record about every inmate. These are very key elements. All right, you will find more recommendations in your study material, and so please go ahead and study them and ensure that you should be able to make those recommendations. All right, now so let's look at the second class activity, class activity 2 for you. Sorry, let's go back. This is all right, so class activity 2, please attempt these questions. List and explain the components of correctional security. We have discussed that. Provide at least 5 possible recommendations for effective correction management. This you should be able to do to ensure that you've understood the lesson. Okay. All right. Thanks for taking this lesson till the end. I will talk to you again in the next class. Do not hesitate to send your questions or contributions to me, and I will be very happy to respond to them. Cheers.